recruiting process, I mean, I kind of know. I mean, obviously, with us being really good friends, I kind of know about the whole situation of you actually committing to USC.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just talk about that a little bit. I mean, how was that experience?
Did you just trying to go to LA, Beanie, or what?
So it was crazy. This was at a crazy time. This is when USC was winning a bunch of national championships.
Sure. Plus, Pete Carroll's a dog, bro.
Pete Carroll's a beast.
Yeah.
You got Matt Leinart, you got Reggie Bush, you got Dwayne Jarrett.
Yep.
What was
Lindell White.
Lindell White. I mean, they had a bunch of guys.
Cushing, that jackass dude who played safety.
Yeah.
I mean, they were stacked. Taylor Mays,
They were stacked.
Bro, so this goes even before Taylor Mays. It's like Darnell Bean type guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a crazy team out there. But at this point in time, I was committed to Ohio State. My mom and dad told me I should take my visits, just to take one visit, not visits, take one visit just to go and see somewhere else. And I chose USC. Mind you, USC had been recruiting me, but they weren't a team that was like high up on my radar. I get out there to Los Angeles, and I don't know if you guys remember the name Freddie Davis. Freddie Davis was the number one player in the state of Ohio, I think, in 2004. So him and Ted Ginn were like neck and neck who was going to be the number one guy. Fred ended up going to the University of Southern California, but he did it kind of sneakily. Left overnight, right before signing day. He boats on a private jet at the time, so this was like unheard of. Private jet, he ends up there. I think it was a private jet. I think that was how the story went.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just rumors of the private jet.
But I'm sure it was a private jet. He's number one.
But Freddie D ended up leaving overnight. Nobody knew where he was going to school at, and ended up being USC.
Yeah.
And Fred ended up being, my main host, but we're getting a chance to kick it with, Dwayne Jarrett. Him and DJ were best friends at the time. We go to him and Matt Leinert's house, and I probably shouldn't be saying this stuff on camera, but these dudes are living like in a penthouse.
Yeah.
Like,
you can kind of say it now.
I think it was all right.
There's no issue now, but these guys are living in the penthouse in Hollywood, which was crazy at the time. And I don't know if you guys remember, there was a little brief moment where Matt Leinart almost kind of got in trouble for receiving improper benefits. At least they thought.
Yeah.
He had a crazy car.
They almost caught him.
They almost got him. And that car that he had was a Hummer.
Okay.
I remember you guys. I know y'all remember Matt Leinart had a Hummer as well.
Same story
in Hollywood. Same story. And the condo was plush.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a chance to be around those guys, be around the Reggie Bushes of the world, and just seeing the access in which they had in Hollywood was.
Are you
crazy.
thinking like I'm trying to get some of this?
100%.
Yeah, I mean that's what coming out the trailer, I'd have been thinking the same thing. Like, yo, man, where do I sign up for this?
Right. They were legit celebrities in LA. There was no pro team in LA, no pro football team in LA at this time. So they're winning a bunch of national championships. You got the who's who at the games. I'm like, shit, I can get used to this lifestyle real quick. I'm from Akron, Ohio. And mind you, this is my first time on a plane.
Yeah.
My first time on a plane going to LA.
Time out.
Yeah, my first time out. And, as a young 17-year-old kid going and experience that as your first time.
Because there was no pretty girls out there.
Girls.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's some women coming to them games, boy.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, everything that, you could, have to entice a 16, 17-year-old kid, they had out there.
Yeah.
And so, I'm out there enjoying myself. The next day, I have breakfast with Pete Carroll in Malibu. And we're, at this restaurant and overlooking the ocean. And I'm like, shit, Coach Carroll, I'm committing here.
I said I love you real quick. I mean, oh my God.
I'm coming to USC. And I called my mom and I called my dad. I let him know, hey, I'm not going to – I was committed to Ohio State. So I'm not going to Ohio State. I'm going to decommit from the Buckeyes, and I'm going to commit here to USC. My dad laughed. Give that chuckle.
Get your ass back to Ohio.
Didn't even say that. Just pass it to my mom directly. My mom said, no, you about to get on the plane and you about to come back to Ohio. So you can pass the phone over to Coach Carroll. And I don't know what she said to him, but, his face kind of, looked a certain way. And, that was the end of that. So it was a real brief commitment to USC because my mom wasn't having it. My dad wasn't having it. And obviously I think I made the best choice. But shit, I mean –
Well, think about
living in LA would have been nice.
Yeah,
how much slipping up could have happened being that far away from the family, and your parents knew that. Beanie.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
100%. I mean, I was a young kid. I wasn't like a wild kid, but nonetheless, when you're away from home, things can happen. And in Los Angeles, when you have that type of access in which they did, a lot can really happen.
Yeah.
So I think I made the best decision, obviously going to Ohio State to where my parents can come see me play on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They can come down and experience some of what I was going through. But I still think in the back of my mind sometimes about USC and the what ifs.
You painted a great picture for the audience, though.
Man,
Thank
I
you.
hope so.
I mean, obviously you commit to Ohio State freshman year. You get on the field. You're very active, but you had the opportunity to play for Coach Tressel, and you also had the chance to play with Troy Smith, a guy that won a Heisman. Not everybody gets that opportunity to play with the guy, that wins the Heisman.
Right.
Just kind of speak on that and just how Troy was in the locker room and like his leadership, the whole nine.
First on Troy, man, Troy was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Troy was he was crazy athletic.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a burner, but he was fast enough. When I'm talking about a guy that can make you miss in a hole, people think Braxton Miller, right? Braxton is Braxton. Braxton is different.
Yeah.
But Troy had that real quick. His footwork was insane, incredible. And then he was just the ultimate leader. He was the guy that players gravitated towards, and you wanted to be around him because you knew in big moments he was going to rise to the occasion.
You could bet on him, bro.
Exactly. I mean, he was going to get everything out of you, and you knew, when you were in the trenches, this is a guy that you want in your foxhole with you because he's going to go to war, and you're probably going to come out victorious because of him. Yeah. So Troy was insane, man. His work ethic was crazy. The way he can throw the ball, still to this day, there's never been a quarterback that I've seen at Ohio State that can throw the ball like Troy Smith. And that's, you go through the C.J. Strouds, Justin Fields, RP, Dwayne Haskins. I mean, it's multiple guys. None of them can throw the ball like Troy. I'll put him up against anybody. If Troy had the offense that these guys had today,
come on, man,
it wouldn't be close. And that's no slight to these guys, right? I mean, because those
just
guys
how talented he was.
Exactly, it's how talented he was and how much before his time he was. Back then, there weren't a lot of dual threat guys going and being productive in the NFL.
True.
Because one, the NFL offenses weren't as adaptive as they are right now. You look at it. The Kyler Murrays and those guys. To me, in my opinion, Troy Smith is way better than the Kyler Murray. Yeah, without question, because he can throw the ball, he run when he had to, and he could make the right decisions.
I was at the 1 versus 2 game. I'll never forget it. And
I was there too.
Dude,
my senior year of high school.
It's unbelievable because that was 06, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew he was up for the Heisman. Huge game at home. He comes out, and yes, I get goosebumps thinking about it. The place was on absolute fire, and he delivered. So that's the thing, like the big players delivering in the moment when they have to, which is why he kept doing that, which is why y'all believed in him so much.
Right.
It's just
Beanie. So I heard that before that big game, because that was your freshman year, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That Troy sat you down before, like you and a bunch of other players, and basically said, like, this is the game where, like, you can, like, stamp that you're, like, an Ohio State legend.
Yeah, I mean, so the night before the game, Troy Smith and Antonio Pittman were roommates. And me and Pitt were cool. That's one of my brothers, but we were super tight. I ended up going in their room and just chopping it up with him and Troy kept telling me, if you make a big play in this game, you got an opportunity to etch yourself in Ohio State history forever and be remembered as a Buckeye legend forever because there's never been a 1-2 game. And then this game is just that important.
Yeah.
If you go out and make a big play and we win this game, you got a chance to be one of the greats and people to always revere you here in Columbus, Ohio. And he wasn't lying, man.
And he understood that then, big time, which a lot of guys don't.
Right. And I think now when you go look at the teams that we had the past couple of years, they didn't beat Michigan the past few years, but I just think guys maybe don't understand the importance of the rivalry now opposed to back then. And it's a little bit different too. A bunch of guys on the roster now aren't from Ohio, so you don't have a lot of those homegrown guys necessarily to be able to understand it and grow up and have looked at the rivalry the entire
Cole
lives.
said that he thought that was part of the problem, that maybe it didn't feel, because I was at it this year, it didn't feel the same, and not because I'm trying to be an old head. I've been to every Ohio State Michigan game at home since I got married on Ohio State Michigan weekend. That's what me and my wife do as our anniversary. We go to the game,
right?
And so it felt different this year, but I think it may be because 20% of the guys is from Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back in the past, there was a lot of guys who are true Ohio State guys. Like, they grew up watching the game. But now I think with them bringing back, like, Laurinaitis and stuff into the locker room, I think that's going to come back. So I think we're going to see, like, a whole different story here soon.
So when Troy says this to you, you're young. It's your freshman year, right? Did that? Obviously, you balled out, but like, did that raise you up or that make you more nervous? Because that puts a pressure from the guy saying, "Beanie, here's that." You know what I'm saying?
But that raised me up, man.
Yeah. Okay.
I was always a person that was, one, just excited to play football, and then two, to play in big games. That's what I dreamed of.
That's what you signed up for.
100%. That's why you go to Ohio State, to play in games like that. So when you got a guy of his magnitude telling you that ain't doing nothing for me, just juicing me up. Amped up. I can't wait for game time. So, and my freshman year I had a little bit of a fumbling problem, right?
Okay.
So the fact that he's telling me this before the game, and then that Coach Tressel, would tell me certain things throughout the whole week, that showed me that they still had confidence in me, regardless of the fumble. They knew I could make plays, and that shit juiced me up, man.
There's something about speaking that confidence into a young guy like that when there's a moment coming, he knew exactly what he was doing.
For sure, 100%.
That's awesome. Great insight there.
That was a great question too, man.
Yeah.
Great question.
So you spoke about Pittman a little bit. I'm curious, like, what were some of like the things that you learned from Pitt? Because obviously, if you playing behind him, like there got to be some things that you picked up from that.
Pitt's such a dog too,
like,
bro.
Like I was watching highlights, dude. You hit the spin move nonstop. Like was that Pitt in your ear, or like where'd that come from?
I think that was just an instinctual thing.
Okay.
That spin move, but what did I learn from Pitt? Man, Pitt was a straight up grinder.
Yeah.
Always
Still
has
is.
been.
Yeah.
Always has been his entire life. And when you talk about a guy that, doesn't always necessarily get the credit that he deserves from the Ohio State Buckeye backs and where he ranks and how people view him, I think people obviously love him, but I think he should be a lot higher on certain people's list because of what he means. And then you go back to his storied career in high school. Pitt is a guy that started off at Barberton, goes to Buckeye, and people, not in Akron, but people on a national scale always overlooked him. So when you got a guy that has that chip on the shoulder that's going to come to work.
So you got the underdog vibe.
100%. Going to come to work every day and give you everything you got and bust your ass 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
That's Pitt. And that's what I learned from him is that no matter what's going on around you, bring your ass to work and ready to work. So that's something that I definitely learned from Pitt.
He displays that every time he walks in his gym, too. That's just what he's about. And
100%.
for you being as talented and revered to see that as an example.
Right.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
That's a recipe for success.
Yeah, right? Because when talent meets talent, I think we've seen these clips from Inky, it's like even.
Right.
But when that talent has that on top of it, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And that's what Pitt basically gave to you.
I mean, there's a fine line. I always say, well, not always say, we got it from like John Madden. He would always say there's a fine line between 3 and 13 and 13 and 3, and it's the small details. There's a fine line between greatness and being great and just being just a guy that has talent. It's the fine details. Are you going to work when nobody's watching? Are you going to do what it takes to get yourself to that next level, man? And that's certainly something I learned from Pitt.